When you wake up, this is what you gotta do. You gotta crush the day before it crushes you. Every day I'm here to motivate, lead the way in the AM. I don't want you to hear these words, I need you to feel what I'm saying. Oh, you gotta crush the day before it crushes you. You gotta crush the day before it crushes you. In the building, Drewbie Wilson, motivation's coming, I can feel it. First thing that you need to do is crush the day before it crushes you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Drewbie. We are back with another exciting Day Crushers episode. These are something special for me. You know, I do our daily conversation where I give you a little motivation and inspiration to get out there and crush the day. But I did want to switch it up a little bit. After 750 episodes, I thought, you know, I've got some cool things to say, and I'm going to keep saying those cool things. But you may have noticed I brought some of the Way Back Wednesdays and the flashback episodes because I want to make sure that even though there's lots and lots of content that still comes out on a daily basis, it doesn't hurt to go back and look at where you've come from and then see how far you've actually gone on the journey. And that's really what crushing the day is all about. Just knowing that, hey, we're blessed to be here today. We have another opportunity to crush it. But sometimes it's fun to sit and reflect on where we've been and what we've been through. So I hope you guys are enjoying some of those older episodes, but I really hope you're enjoying these new interview style episodes. And, you know, if you are, make sure you're sharing them, tagging me on the social media, all that kind of stuff that helps get the message out there. But just lets me know that you're actually enjoying the content that I'm creating and how much I want you to know I appreciate that. So if you're sharing it and putting it out there and getting the message, you are appreciated and I'm grateful. But today's episode, it's a Day Crusher interview. I go out, I find my friends, find the people that I'm connected with who I've had the pleasure of watching change their life, you guys. This is what we are here for. That's why you're taking the time to listen to a podcast, because you want to grow, you want to get better, you want to crush the day before it crushes you. And today's guest, man, I've had the pleasure of watching this dude. When we first met, we're going to get into the conversation we had, but when we first met, he was a little nervous. He was a little hesitant to take action, and he pulled the trigger. He went all in on himself, and I've seen this dude absolutely change his life and become a just amazing human being. Not that he wasn't before, but who he is now, man, it's huge. That's why I talked about the growth, but I'd like you guys to welcome my friend, Mr. Jordan Gibbs. What's up, brother?
Hey, what's up, Drewbie, man? Thanks for having me here. It's good to be a part of this, and thanks for all the kind words. Truly honored.
Hey, man, it's my honor to have you here. You've been someone that has been a huge supporter of the Crush the Day movement in the last 3-4 years. And so, man, what I really enjoy about you is knowing that you come from somewhat of a, we'll say, troubled past. You know, we grew up in areas that were less than ideal for kids who had to figure things out the way that we did, but we came through. You know, you're a father now and you're leading the pack for your family. So talk a little bit about that story, man. For anybody who doesn't know who you are, give us a little background.
Whew. Well, I don't know where to start. I mean, I've always been a hustler and a salesperson. When I was young, you know, like the typical jobs just didn't appeal to me. You know, around here, if you wasn't working at one of the bigger factories, you wasn't going to be successful. So, you know, that's what everyone expected. I ran into a sales gig that, you know, most people thought was too good to be true, kind of a scam or whatnot. And long story short, I ended up doing some traveling, launching some fiber optic markets for other companies. Went upstate New York all the way down to Texas, doing some sales here and there. Eventually ended up coming back home. Was ready to, you know, kind of homesick. So I started a mobile detail business. We ran that for about 5 years. It was pretty successful in the area. We had the best customers, best clientele anyone could ask for. So I did that for about 5 years, and then a local cable company was hiring for a position door to door that I was, you know, familiar with. So I applied and I got in with that. And for about a year solid, I was doing both. I was doing the car detailing during the day, knocking doors in the evening. I'd go to a sales meeting midday with wet pants on from wet cars. Then I had my crew that was running that while I would be out doing the sales part for a local cable company. So I did that for about a year, kind of got burned out, and I realized that, I was making more in the sales than I was with the car wash, and it was kind of like stepping over, nickels to pick up pennies. So put all my efforts into the sales part, and about a year or two later, one of my buddies that I traveled with started his own company. We decided we had kind of made all the other companies a lot of money, and it was time to do it for ourselves. So then we just kind of started that. I've been helping him grow and brand that ever since. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
But what I laugh about there, and we don't have to talk about everything from the past, but it's that realization of, hey, man, I can go and work with my hands and I can do manual labor, and there's nothing wrong with doing manual labor. You can make great money. There's opportunity there. But you also were kind of going, hey, man, I can go do this sales thing and put in similar amount of time but be making more money, as you said, stepping over nickels to pick up pennies when you're wiping down cars, but then you're on the doors and you're having real conversations and you're helping people get a product, a service that they need, not just like you were doing that in the car detailing business, don't get me wrong, but it's so interesting how sales kind of puts you in this position where you realize, hey, the ability to find a product or a service or a solution for someone in need, there is a lot of opportunity with that. And that's truly what sales is just serving the clients. And man, that's one of the things I've really enjoyed watching you on your journey is that, yeah, you have the sales hustler mentality and you kind of come from that. But I know when you're talking about everything and sharing how you get out there in the field and what you do with your clients, it's always really from a place of service, man. And that's the beautiful thing of seeing how you move and how you operate is you're truly a servant at heart. We have someone that we chat about personally that a little more well-known that you've known for a long time. And we kind of joke about, man, it's so cool to be there and have served with that person and help them on their journey in just that small way. So for the listener, tell a little bit about how serving has been a big part of for your growth and how you crush the day.
I mean, it's truly a change in the mindset. A lot of times, especially when people first get in sales, it's all about you and, closing that first customer or whatnot. But when you realize it's just about having a conversation and listening to the problem that they're having and let them talk about it, because most of the time, they may have a bad experience with a similar company or your company. So a lot of times they just want to be heard. So if you'll listen, you'll find the solutions within their story. But I think the biggest mindset shift is just realizing it's a conversation and, not trying to be some Jake from State Farm salesperson and just go out and talk to people. Just have conversations.
Yeah, man, building a genuine relationship is such a huge part of sales and entrepreneurship. And what's interesting is it's really such a huge part of life. If you want to have good people around you and you want to be in the right rooms, having the right conversations, it's very important to understand how to show up and just care about people. I forget what the quote is, but it's like, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And
Yeah.
Jordan, man, that's an absolute gem for anyone who's paying attention and listening and thinking, hey, how can I improve? How can I build a little bit more? Maybe it's making more money. Maybe it's having more friendships or getting deeper connection with spirituality, whatever that may be. It's really just that willingness to be genuine. And man, that's something I really, truly love about you, brother, is you are as real as they come, whether I see you posting online or get to hug you when we're at the, $1 Million Mastermind during the year. It's always the real Jordan. So share a little bit about how you had to have that coming up in the game and then kind of how you've been able to use that to build your authority in your community, man. You have one of the biggest groups in your area. There's thousands of freaking comments and engagements in there every day. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think when we're younger and just learning and getting experiences, a lot of times we think that we've got to be somebody we're not. And when we do that, we're running off our target customer. And I learned a lot of that in Apex, about authenticity. And it's just there's a lot of people out there that's just like you, and you're not going to sell everybody. You're not going to connect with everybody. But if you're not yourself, you're not going to connect with the people that's like you. So authenticity is something I really strive for. And being in Apex, it kind of taught me that it's okay to be who you are. In fact, there's only one you, and nobody's going to do it better than you. So be yourself.
That's the truth, brother.
That's it.
That's it. Well, and that's one of the things that you, as I was saying, you've always just been authentically you. And I'll never forget the conversation where you and I talked about jumping into Apex, and you're like, brother, I ain't never spent no money like this on anything except some bad shit in my life. And like, I'm trying to make a right step in the right direction here, man. And man, I need to know, like, is this going to work? And I said, yeah, brother, I promise. If you just trust the process. I know it sounds crazy, but I come from where you come from. I've experienced it myself. I've lived it. And man, I know you had a lot of trust in some random dude from the internet that you're like, I don't know, this guy could be a total fucking scam. Like, you didn't know me from nobody, but you put that trust in and you believed in yourself more than anything, brother. That's the crazy stuff, is you were like, okay, I'm going to make this investment that's more money than I've ever spent on anything, but I'm believing in it and I'm going to trust it. And you jumped in. You didn't do everything all at once because it's a little overwhelming for a lot of people. Like, holy shit, it's a whole new world. But what I've seen you do is implement and take action and start telling stories and build community and truly become a greater version of yourself than when we met probably, 3 years ago now?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think a lot of it has to do with first, investing in yourself and jumping all in, like you said. It truly is a process. Like none of this shit happens overnight. Like even, we see some of the bigger stories. 20 years overnight is what I like to call it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think joining, or just the commitment I made. Now that I look back on it, I think it was more of like a abundance versus scarcity mindset. Like, if you put it out there, it's going to come back, as long as you're working toward the right goal.
That's the woo-woo side of crushing the day and of life, that it does take some people some time to work through. So if you've ever been out there and you've been in a moment where you're going, yeah, like I want that, but I just can't see it for myself. You got to rewire and change that thought process, because when you get into the mindset that literally anything is possible if you're willing to work hard enough to make it happen, it really just comes back to breaking it down at that point. It's like, all right, well, if my goal is to own a cool car, or my goal is to travel the world, or my goal is the X, Y, or Z, fantastic. Let's put that over here. Then let's figure out where you're at right now. And let's start reverse engineering the steps it's going to take. And man, you've seen it. You've been there for people that have been that 20-year overnight success. You've watched it real time. And you and I joke about it because we've been in the game for a while too. We've got some things that we've been working and building towards. And we just know, hey man, some days are harder than others, but it's nice to know that at some point we're going to be that overnight success.
Yeah, I feel like I've been kind of like manifesting my successes, but it's not really that. What it is planting seeds along the way, and eventually they come up to harvest. It doesn't happen overnight, but if you keep putting in the work, you won't even know where it's coming from, and it won't be where you expect it to come from. You might do, something and expect a sale or a relationship or whatever it may be, and you get it from the complete opposite side of the field. And I think it's just the universe, acknowledging the fact that you put in the work. So.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm going to make the analogy of planting seeds, because it's like when I was a young guy and we'd be riding around and we'd be, breaking stuff down, and we'd be throwing the stems and seeds out the window. And then you'd be like driving by like a week or two later and you'd see a little plant growing up. And you'd be like, oh, shit. Like, oh, is that what I think it is? Man, that's got a very distinct structure to it. A certain look. I think that's what I think it is. Let's leave it a little longer and come back. And you're like, oh, shit. And if anyone's ever actually planted a seed and let it go to the full harvest and be there, man, it's a beautiful feeling.
Sometimes you got to move those plants, though. Sometimes you got to move them.
That's a whole different episode for gardening. We can come back and talk about that on the gardening episode of crushing the garden before it crushes you, right? We got to weed the plants out of there. That's the secret, anyways. But that's the truth, man. You're absolutely right. It is. It's planting seeds. It's having those thoughts, putting them into the universe, and just letting the energy, the God, whatever you subscribe to, know, like, hey, this is something I do want. This is something I'm serious about. Writing it down somewhere or telling someone. Sometimes you plant a seed in the wrong person, and they like stroke that seed out, and it's not moist enough, or they just dry it all out because they don't want to share any of the sunlight, right? But it doesn't mean that it's no good. Sometimes that seed, you just, like he said, got to replant it somewhere else. Let it get nurtured, let it grow, and eventually it's going to come to be. So, brother, I love that. And I love that about you, because you and I mean, we've built a pretty special relationship these last couple of years, man. Let's not joke around about it. I appreciate the heck out of you for it. But likewise. One of the things that's really cool to know, though, is that you show up every day. You work really hard. You have a hustler's mentality. Like, you are not afraid to go and do the hard work. But what I really am most impressed about you by is that you do that and still show up as a great father for your son. And man, I know, coming from being kind of a rough buster of a kid and having a 7-year-old of my own, being a father and being an entrepreneur and finding that balance can be really difficult. Would you mind sharing a little bit about some of the things that you do? And again, none of us are perfect, but like some of the stuff you do that you try to share with your son, how to crush the day and how to get out there and be a great leader and man for himself.
Well, first of all, it's not always what it looked like. That's for sure. And it's probably the hardest part of all of that is to couple that with that. But without that, it's all worthless anyway. I feel like, like you said, none of us are perfect, and I know I'm not. But I think more of anything, it's just by leading by example, because they're not gonna do what you tell them to do if you're not doing it. So, if they see you getting up and going to the gym, busting your ass, taking phone calls, and then they might not realize it to begin with, but eventually they're gonna realize why you did all of that and where all that cool stuff and all those cool trips are coming from. But it's just like the seeds, man. You just gotta water them, give them nurturing, and listen to them too. Because a lot of times I know my kid feels unheard because we got so much going on as entrepreneurs and so whatever it may be that we miss the little stuff sometimes. So with a lot of things in life, I think you just gotta pay attention to the details. So.
Yep, and sometimes you gotta hear the message that God planted for you. And I think that one might have been for me, and I hope it was for you that is here listening with us today, because that's such a powerful thing to say. Sometimes it really is about sitting back and letting someone else be heard, about letting them tell their story, about letting them share the things that are on their heart, that are on their mind, because you never know when those words, that combination, that moment could unlock that thing in your brain that sets you on the path to that next level. Because we're all guilty of getting that tunnel vision of being just 100% dialed in, focused, ready to crush it. But sometimes you're an immovable object against an unstoppable force, right? And it's kind of just in this spot where no one can go anywhere, and taking a step back and allowing someone else to be heard, you never know where that could unlock the thing and move you that 1 inch in either direction that allows you to get through where you need to go through. So Jordan, man, thank you for that. That was so well said and so true, and a great reminder for all of us that have children that, hey, sometimes they need to be heard or feel like they're not heard because the speed of which we move in a day-to-day basis. So, bro, that was huge, man. Thank you for that.
You're welcome, man. I'm glad. Hopefully it helps someone else. Maybe I'll listen to it later on myself, because we all get caught up in the moment. That's for sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I always find that our best messages are as much for everyone else as they are for ourselves. That's why we're saying them. But the hardest advice to take is always our own. You know, we always have great advice for everyone else, but sometimes when it comes to ourselves, we're kind of like, yeah, man. And then we just move
I'm
on,
good
you
at
know what I'm
that.
saying?
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, Jordan, I know you're busy. I know you've got an amazing day. You've got to get out there and crush. If anyone is listening right now and you resonate with Jordan, you understand, hey, it's about the grind, it's about the hustle, but it's also about showing up and being an example, about being a great member of the community. I cannot recommend enough that you go follow this guy, check out his content. He does some special stuff on the side that I'm sure he'll talk a little bit about when you start following him, so you can see what he's got going on. But man, he's connected, he's plugged in, he's got some amazing stories. But more importantly, he cares about helping you on your journey and really just sharing what he's going through as a human, as an example, as a man, as a father, and showing up for the people that he is there for. So Jordan, thank you so much for being here, man. How can people find you and follow you if they want to check out more of what you got going on?
Well, I don't have my website up yet, so it's I got the domain, but we'll leave that alone for right now. But Jordan Gibbs on Facebook, JG Wise on Instagram and TikTok. But just you can find me on Facebook, and I'll be everywhere else if you just find me there.
Well, I'll make sure that we get all your good stuff and we'll put it in the show notes so anybody that likes what they heard can follow you, check you out, see what's going on. As always, man, you are appreciated. I'm so grateful for your friendship. And for those of you who are here, who are listening, if you got something out of this, if there was a nugget that you took away from it, share it with the people you know. Share it with someone who you think it might benefit. Tag us over on social media with @CrushingTheDay. I'll make sure that we reshare it. We'll talk about all of the amazing things that we can do as a community to get out there and help each other keep growing. So we'll see you guys on the next one. As always, crush the day before it crushes you. Later. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to go back and check out all the previous episodes. Make sure you subscribe and share this podcast with other like-minded, success-driven individuals who want to crush it. Check the show notes and grab your Crushing the Day swag over at crushingtheday.com. And remember, crush the day before it crushes you.
You gotta crush the day before it crushes you.